Iran annihilated 7 US F-35s at Dhafra Air Base in the UAE. Abu Dhabi gave America 48 hours to leave. 7 of the most advanced stealth fighters ever built turned into burning wreckage inside their own shelters at a base America considered untouchable. 12 airmen gone $700 million in aircraft, destroyed by missiles that cost less than a used car. And then the unthinkable, a U.S. ally of over 20 years, looked Washington in the eye and said, "Get out." But here is what no one is telling you. This was never about the UAE. This was the first domino. Welcome back to the Global Audit. Now, before we go any further, if you have been following this conflict day after day, if you come here to understand what is really happening and not just headlines, then do this one small favor. Look down. You see that subscribe button? Just tap it once. The way you would hold a door open for someone, no effort, but it means everything. And while you're at it, drop your country in the comments. Let us see how far this war room stretches across the globe. Now, let us get into what really happened at Al Dhafra, March 13th, 3:14 in the morning. Most of the world was asleep, but deep inside U.S. Central Command's radar network screens suddenly lit up. 6 objects rising fast from western Iran ballistic missiles, trajectory locked heading straight for one target, Al Dhafra Air Base, just 32 kilometers south of Abu Dhabi. The clock started ticking from the moment those missiles left Iranian soil. The base had less than 8 minutes to react, 8 minutes to survive. Alert systems activated across the base. Sirens echoed through the desert night. Personnel scrambled toward hardened shelters. Pilots ran toward their aircraft hoping for a launch order that never came in time. And then at exactly 3:22 a.m., the first missile hit. It was a Khorramshahr-4, one of Iran's most powerful ballistic missiles, carrying somewhere between 500 and 800 kilograms of high explosive. The warhead did not land in an open field. It did not scatter across the runway. It punched straight through the reinforced concrete roof of aircraft shelter number 7 and detonated inside. 2 F-35A Lightning II stealth fighters were parked in that shelter. Both were destroyed instantly, and the concrete walls built to protect those jets collapsed inward and became part of the destruction. Over the next 90 seconds, 5 more missiles followed. 3 of them struck additional aircraft shelters. 1 hit a maintenance hangar, 1 landed near the fuel storage area but failed to trigger secondary fires. When the dust and smoke finally cleared, the damage was beyond anything the base had ever seen. 7 F-35A fighters destroyed or damaged beyond any hope of repair. 12 American airmen killed. Most of them were maintenance crews working the night shift preparing aircraft for morning missions. They never saw it coming. 19 more personnel were injured, 8 of them critically. Now here's the detail that changed everything. This was not a random barrage. Iran did not fire blindly and hope for the best. Every single missile hit a shelter that contained an F-35, not the older F-16s parked nearby, not the KC-135 tankers, not the support aircraft. Only the F-35s Iran knew exactly where those jets were sitting. They had satellite imagery precise enough to identify individual shelters and intelligence, either from signals or from human sources, confirming which shelters housed which aircraft. The Khorramshahr-4 delivered that precision with a circular error probable of just 2 to 5 meters. Each missile landed almost exactly on its programmed coordinates. From 800 miles away, 7 missiles, 7 shelters. 7 of the most advanced stealth fighters ever built reduced to wreckage. The financial cost alone was staggering. Each F-35A carries a price tag between $80 and $100 million, meaning 7 aircraft represented somewhere between $560 million and $700 million gone in under 2 minutes. But the real damage was not measured in dollars. It was measured in what came next. By the time the sun rose over Abu Dhabi on March 13th, the smoke from Al Dhafra had not yet cleared. But inside the presidential palace, a different kind of fire was already burning. UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed did not wait for a full damage report. He did not wait for Washington to call. He did not wait for the Pentagon to offer explanations. By 9 a.m., just 6 hours after the missiles hit, he had already convened an emergency meeting of the National Security Council. The room was tense. The question on the table was simple, but the answer would reshape the entire Middle East. Can the United Arab Emirates continue hosting American forces while Iran is actively firing ballistic missiles at those forces? Every person in that room understood what was really being asked. Is this alliance still worth the risk? For over 20 years, the UAE had welcomed American military presence. It had provided land, airspace, logistics support, and political cover. Al Dhafra had become one of the most important U.S. air bases outside American soil. 5,000 military personnel, F-35 stealth fighters, refueling tankers, and Reaper drones. The base was a cornerstone of American power projection across the entire Gulf. But that was before Iran started hitting it with precision ballistic missiles. The men sitting in that room understood something that most of the world had not yet grasped. The UAE entire national identity, its economy, its global reputation was built on one single foundation: stability. Dubai did not become a global financial hub because of oil. It became one because investors believed their money was safe there. Tourists did not flock to Abu Dhabi because of the weather. They came because the region felt secure. Every skyscraper, every luxury hotel, every international business headquartered in the Emirates existed because the world trusted that the UAE was untouchable. And Iran had just proven it was not. If 6 missiles could destroy 7 F-35s inside hardened shelters on a defended American airbase, what could 20 missiles do to Dubai's financial district? What could 10 missiles do to the desalination plants that provide drinking water to millions? What would happen if a single warhead struck Dubai International Airport, the world's busiest international airport by passenger traffic? The math was brutal and simple. The UAE operates American-made THAAD and Patriot missile defense systems, among the most advanced air defense platforms in the world. But they were designed to intercept missiles at high altitude during the mid-course phase of flight. Against the terminal phase of a ballistic missile diving toward its target at extreme speed, these systems struggle. If Iran launched 20 missiles at a single UAE city, maybe 15 would be intercepted, maybe even 17. But 3 getting through, even 2, would be catastrophic. One missile hitting a major economic target in Dubai would trigger panic across global markets overnight. Foreign investment would freeze. Insurance premiums on Gulf assets would skyrocket. The economic model that took decades to build could collapse in a single afternoon. And the United States, despite spending billions on regional defense, could not guarantee that it would not happen. That was the conclusion the National Security Council reached before noon. By 2:00 p.m., the UAE ambassador to the United States had delivered a formal diplomatic message to Central Command and the Pentagon. The words were carefully chosen, but their meaning was unmistakable. The United Arab Emirates cannot guarantee the safety and security of U.S. personnel at Dhafra Air Base and is requesting that the United States begin planning for a phased withdrawal of forces within 48 hours. Not a request for more Patriot batteries, not a demand for better radar systems, not a plea for increased American protection. A request for America to leave 20 years of military partnership, reduced to a single diplomatic cable, and the most devastating part was that no one in Washington could argue with the logic. The UAE was not acting out of anger or betrayal. It was acting out of pure survival mathematics. Hosting American forces had turned the UAE into a target, and no defense system on Earth could make that target safe enough. But what Abu Dhabi did not yet realize was that their decision had just triggered something far larger, a chain reaction that no one could stop. There is a moment in every war when the battlefield stops being about weapons and starts being about alliances. March 13th was that moment, because the missiles that hit Al Dhafra did not just destroy 7 fighter jets. They cracked the foundation of something far more important: trust. And once trust breaks between allies in wartime, it does not heal quietly. It spreads. 2 days before Al Dhafra, on March 11th, Iran had already sent a message to another American ally. 3 Zulfiqar-class ballistic missiles struck Prince Sultan Air Base, one of the largest U.S. military installations in Saudi Arabia. The base took direct hits. American command facilities were damaged. Personnel were shaken. And then came the silence. Riyadh issued no public statement, no press conference, no declaration of solidarity with Washington, no condemnation of Iran. The Saudi government simply said nothing. In diplomacy, silence is never empty. Silence is a message. And everyone in the region heard it clearly. Saudi Arabia was watching, calculating, and waiting to see what the UAE would do next. And now the UAE had answered. When Abu Dhabi told Washington to begin withdrawing forces within 48 hours, it was not just a decision about one airbase. It was a signal to every government in the Gulf. A signal that said, it is now acceptable to ask America to leave. History had seen this before October 23rd, 1983, Beirut, Lebanon. A truck loaded with explosives drove into the U.S. Marine barracks at the airport. The blast killed 241 American service members in a single moment, the deadliest day for the U.S. military since the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. The Marines were there as peacekeepers. After the bombing, President Reagan swore American forces would stay. He called the mission vital. He promised strength and resolve. 4 months later, every single Marine was gone. Lebanon could not protect them. America could not protect them. And staying meant accepting more casualties for a mission that no longer made sense. The UAE in 2026 was following the exact same logic, but with one critical difference. In Beirut, the enemy was a militia, a non-state actor with a truck bomb. In the Gulf, the enemy was Iran, a nation-state with precision-guided ballistic missiles, satellite intelligence, and the demonstrated ability to strike any target at any base in any country across the region. That difference changed everything. Because if the UAE falls out of the American security umbrella, Saudi Arabia has no reason to stay under it either. Prince Sultan Air Base was already hit. Saudi leadership had already seen what Iranian missiles could do to defended American installations, and now they had proof from their closest Gulf neighbor that leaving the alliance was not just possible, it was survivable. Military analysts across the world began running the same scenario. If Saudi Arabia follows the UAE and requests a U.S. withdrawal from Prince Sultan, then every Iranian missile currently aimed at Saudi territory loses its justification. Iran would have no reason to strike a country that is no longer hosting American combat operations. Remove the American bases and remove the Iranian target from your back. And then there was Qatar Al Udeid Air Base. 10,000 U.S. military personnel, the forward headquarters of Central Command, the nerve center of every American air operation in the Middle East. If both the UAE and Saudi Arabia expelled American forces, Qatar would become the last remaining major U.S. installation in the immediate Gulf region, the last target standing. On March 14th, Qatar's foreign minister appeared on Al Jazeera. A journalist asked him directly, "Will Al Udeid remain open?" His answer was careful, measured, every word chosen with precision. He refused to commit. He said Qatar would continue monitoring the regional security situation and would make decisions based on the safety of its people. In diplomatic language, that sentence means one thing. Qatar is preparing to close the base. Not tomorrow, not next week. But the door is now open. 3 Gulf states, 4 days, all moving toward the same conclusion. And behind closed doors, Iran's strategists understood something that Washington had not yet accepted. The next phase of this war would not require a single missile. There is a way to lose a war without losing a single battle. And on day 15 of this conflict, that is exactly what was happening to the United States. Not on the battlefield, not in the skies, not in some dramatic last stand, but in quiet rooms behind closed doors where allies were picking up phones and saying goodbye. The numbers told a story that no Pentagon briefing could spin. Since February 28th, Iran had launched over 650 ballistic missiles and 2,600 drones. The United States and Israel had struck more than 6,000 targets inside Iran. American operations alone had burned through over $12 billion. Over 1,200 Iranian civilians were confirmed dead. 19 American service members had been killed across the region. The Strait of Hormuz had been closed for 15 consecutive days. Oil prices were holding above $115 per barrel. And after all of that punishment, after all of that firepower, Iran was still launching coordinated strikes against American installations. But that was not the real crisis. The real crisis was the map. Al Dhafra, gone. The UAE had formally requested American withdrawal with 5,000 personnel packing equipment instead of loading weapons. Prince Sultan, wavering. Saudi Arabia had taken missile strikes and responded with silence. No commitment to continued hosting. No public defense of the alliance. Al Udeid, unresolved. Qatar's foreign minister had refused to guarantee the base would remain open, with 10,000 American troops sitting at the region's biggest remaining target waiting for a decision that everyone already knew was coming. 3 bases, 3 allies, 3 doors, all closing at the same time. Without Al Dhafra, the United States lost its primary stealth fighter platform in the Gulf. Without Prince Sultan, it lost its command and logistics backbone in Saudi territory. Without Al Udeid, it would lose the forward headquarters of Central Command itself. No forward air bases, no refueling infrastructure, no logistics hubs within immediate striking range of Iranian territory. The alternatives were not encouraging. Iraq still hosted American forces, but the government in Baghdad could barely justify that presence during peacetime. During an active war with Iran, that justification evaporated entirely. Jordan offered limited basing options, but lacked the infrastructure to replace what the Gulf bases provided. Djibouti, thousands of miles away on the Horn of Africa, was a support base, not a strike platform. The United States was not being pushed out of the Middle East by enemy firepower. It was being asked to leave by the very nations it had sworn to protect, and the financial mathematics made the situation even sharper. The F-35 program had cost American taxpayers over $1 trillion across its lifetime, the most expensive weapon system in human history, built to dominate the skies, built to be untouchable. And Iran had destroyed 7 of them on the ground using missiles that cost approximately $1 million each. $7 million in missiles against $700 million in aircraft, a cost ratio of 1 to 100. No military strategist in history would accept those numbers long term. No defense budget could absorb them, and no ally watching from the sidelines would trust a security guarantee backed by aircraft that could be wiped out before they ever left the ground. That was the deeper wound, not the loss of jets, not the loss of bases, but the loss of something the United States had spent 70 years building across the Middle East: credibility. The belief that American military power could protect its partners. The assumption that hosting U.S. forces made a country safer, not more endangered. the understanding that Washington's security umbrella was worth the political cost of sheltering under it. Iran had not just fired missiles at concrete shelters, it had fired missiles at that belief, and the belief had shattered. Day 15 of the war was ending. The skies over the Gulf were quieter than they had been in 2 weeks, but the silence was not peace. It was the sound of allies walking away. And somewhere in Tehran, strategists understood what Washington had not yet admitted publicly. Iran did not need to win this war with missiles. It just needed America's friends to stop answering the phone. That is the full picture of what happened at Al-Dhafra and what it means for the future of American power in the Middle East. This conflict is not slowing down. It is accelerating, and every day brings a new shift that reshapes the entire region. If you have been following this war from the beginning, you already know that this channel does not deal in rumors or speculation. Only verified developments, only strategic analysis. Stay informed, stay sharp, and if this breakdown helped you understand what is really happening, share it with someone who needs to see it.